Greetings from the Jazz Guitar Cloud. I'm Richie Zellon, and in this video I bring you a fountain of inspiration in the form of 10 jazz guitar duet albums that you absolutely must check out. So whether you need some motivation to practice or you just want to broaden your jazz guitar horizons, these recordings are bound to do the trick. Coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Guitar Channel, where I bring you weekly videos on everything related to the art of playing jazz guitar. So if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing and be sure to click on the bell notification icon so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. So without further ado, let me get started with this list of amazing jazz guitar duets. It is unfortunate that I can't play samples from each CD because YouTube has gotten very strict about the use of copyrighted music, and I've already had my share of problems, even for playing very small fragments of different pieces. However, I'm sure you'll be able to find tracks from these different recordings if you do a search either here on YouTube or on Google. I also want to add that this presentation is not necessarily in any special order. They're all great and unique in their own way. Some of them feature the two guitarists backed by bass and drums, while others, like this first one, feature just pure solo guitar. And I'm referring to a relatively unknown recording on a very small independent Italian label called RAM. It's called Rare Birds by Joe DiOrio and Mick Goodrick. Not familiar with these guys? Well, it's time you meet them. They've been around for a while and have influenced a lot of the younger 21st century jazz guitarists. And this recording is exemplary of what a post-bop jazz guitar duet is. Lots of counterpoint between the two players over standards with fresh reharmonizations. It features On Green Dolphin Street, My Funny Valentine, Out of Nowhere, Blue and Green, and many more. It was released over 20 years ago, and I must warn you, it is not that easy to find. But if you can get your hands on it, this one's a must. My second feature is a duet by two guitarists that need no further introduction, Jim Hall and Pat Metheny. The album, which bears the same name, was recorded on Telarc Records, partly in the studio and partly live. This is another example of post-bop jazz, a post-bop jazz guitar duet, and it features two well-known standards, All the Things You Are and Summertime, along with several originals as well as purely improvised pieces. There's some great interplay here by two of the most influential players in the modern history of jazz guitar. Moving on to my third feature, we have another one of my personal favorites. Sad to say, these two players are no longer with us, and I'm referring to Emily Remmler and Larry Coryell. The album, entitled Together, on the Concord label, has just the two guitarists playing some bebop-oriented duets over songs like Joy Spring, How Insensitive, How My Heart Sings, and several more. And here you get to hear jazz fusion pioneer Larry Coryell in some of his best straight-ahead playing. But for me personally, who really steals the show here is Emily Remmler. If you watched my 6 female jazz guitarist You Should Hear video, you already know she is very special in my book. And I'll put a link to it in the info section down below for those who want to check it out. The bottom line is that Emily could swing, and you'll be able to appreciate her at the top of her short-lived career in this recording. My fourth feature is also on the Concord label, and it's a duet by two of Canada's finest jazz guitarists, Ed Bickert and Lorne Lofsky. This, like the Hall and Metheny duet, is another master and disciple type album. And although Lofsky holds his own, Bickert, who recently passed on, is the master and influencer here. Personally, along with Jim Hall, he is one of my all-time favorite jazz guitarists. He could develop an improvised line using both melodic and rhythmic motifs like few I've heard. At the same time, he would swing like there's no tomorrow. And his approach to chord melody is unparalleled among guitarists. Unfortunately, you won't be able to appreciate much of that here. But there's great comping though, and some creative playing over several lesser known standards. My fifth feature is yet another master and disciple duet album. This is a father and son album. Now, as with the previous ones, the disciple more than holds his own ground. And I'm referring to Jimmy Rainey and his son Doug Rainey. This album on Steeplechase, entitled Nardis, has just the two guitarists playing a high level of tasty bebop chops over several known standards such as There Will Never Be Another You, I Can't Get Started, and the title track. And lots of great interplay here. And if you get hooked on this one and want more, be sure to check out another album they did together for Steeplechase, simply entitled Duets. On my sixth feature, we have a duet by a couple of brothers better known in the gypsy jazz circles, Balu and Elias Perret. The album, once again on Steeplechase, is called Trinity, probably because as a third member it features Nels Henning Orsted Peterson on bass. Oh, and by the way, Balu and Elias are the sons of guitarist Martello Ferrate, who played with Django Reinhardt. So if you want to hear some legit gypsy style jazz with a touch of bebop played acoustically on Selmer Macaffery guitars, this is the one. It has some nice renditions of several standards such as Out of Nowhere, Lover Man, There'll Never Be Another You, and more. And since we're talking gypsy jazz, for my seventh feature, I want to introduce a duet by two guitarists, one of whom is heavily associated with gypsy jazz, but as well with mainstream jazz guitar. And I'm referring to Borelli Legrin and his duet album with Sylvain Luc. And this one's entitled Summertime. This is on the Dreyfus Jazz label. Some monster chops here and masterful duets over several known standards such as On Green Dolphin Street, Wave, So What, Someday My Prince Will Come, and of course the title track. My eighth feature is yet another master and disciple duet in the bebop vein. The master here is another icon in the world of jazz guitar, and I'm referring to Joe Pass. And the disciple is Joe Pisano, who originally comped behind Joe back in the early days. Pisano, of course, is an accomplished player on his own, while also would Pass share the spotlight with him. And the album is entitled Duets, and it's on the Pablo label. Just the two of them here, and I should mention that the only standard in this recording is Alone Together. But the counterpoint between the two guitarists is well worth the price of admission. Having said that, if you want to hear Pass playing more standards in a duet mode, be sure to check out his two duet recordings with Herb Ellis, 7 Come 11 and Joe's Blues. And these, by the way, are in a more traditional swing setting. And they feature bass and drums. For my 9th feature, we have another post-bop jazz guitar duet. This time it's Joe Beck with the late Joe Abercrombie in an album entitled Coincidence. And this features just the 2 players, and they're playing some fresh renditions of Beautiful Love, I Should Care, My Funny Valentine, All Blues, and some more standards. And finally, for my 10th feature, again, a post-bop jazz guitar duet, this time by Frank Honchchild and John Stowell. And it's called Listen to This. It was released on the German label Acoustic Music Records. And these 2 guitarists are not exactly household names in the jazz guitar world, but they are indeed excellent. And I especially like Stowell, who is always exploring the outer reaches of the instrument. There's some great interplay among both players here over a wonderful selection of standards, such as Nardis, Solar, and also several bossa novas by Antonio Carlos Jobim. And before I wrap it up, I have some honorary mentions that didn't make it into my formal list of great jazz guitar duets, and mainly for lack of space. So I'll mention them briefly. Solar by John Abercrombie and John Schofield, Heavy Artillery by Howard Alden and Andy Brown, and Howard Alden and George Van Amps. Now, of course, there are many, many more, and I want to encourage you to comment in the info section below and let us know about any great jazz guitar duets that I missed here, as well as any of your favorites from my list. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and if this is your first time, be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell icon so you won't miss any of my upcoming lessons. Meanwhile, here's another great video you can enjoy.